Hello and welcome to another build guide. So I just made an explosive arrow assassin build, and since we paid a visit to a fire skill, I think it is reasonable to do another fire skill. So this is burning arrow, this is a dot build, damage over time. So this is completely different. But my friend who suggested explosive arrow also suggested this because he likes these kind of fire arrow skills a lot. So now we are gonna check burning arrow. So first of all, the main reason for this, let's say Chieftain, is for the maximum DPS. Chieftain right now has the highest burning arrow damage potential in the game. Trickster is also another option, but has a couple of million less damage. So right now with Chieftain, I can still min-max more if I can. So before let's say this, the equipment I am using is very cheap actually. Less than, let's see, 10 exalt probably, yeah, maybe even less. But the jewels are a little problem in this kind of builds, so we are going to talk about those later. But you can just start playing with the equipment if you have a lower budget, but you need to buy the cluster jewels later, yeah. So Chieftain has, I will probably put a picture, Gamahu Flame Advance. So this is a proc that you can get every 10 seconds for only 4 seconds. So if you can min-max your uptime with this, you know, once you start the fight with a Minotaur, tier 16 Guardian, or maybe the Conquerors, Baran and Drox, those kind of bosses, if you can maximize your uptime, if you can time, you know, you can do the timing right, let's say, you can just delete the bosses in like 2 or 3 seconds. The DPS is like 30 million, but actually most of the clips are without this, because I wasn't sure if I can do this, if I can make the uptime, you know, correct. So most of the clips are without it, but some of the clips are with this. So the DPS difference is like 10 million, something like that. So consider using this, and if it is not for you, just go with Ramako Sun's Light. So yeah, I just wanted to say this before we start, so because there is a lot of DPS difference. So this is just that makes Chieftain way better compared to a Trickster. And also one last thing about the difference, it is very hard to put 3 cluster jewels on a Trickster because your HP will be way too low, because Shadow's starting location maybe isn't that good. But it is very easy to do that on a Marauder. My character is 94 levels, you can even push higher, so you will even have higher health, because you don't need much DPS now. Yeah, so my character right now has 6.1k life. If I can level maybe 2 more levels, it will be around 2.5 I believe, because I need to change something. And yeah, so this is about the intro, so let's just hop right into the items. So bow, Zof's Nurture. So this is a breach boss item, so drops from Zof. So maybe it's a little hard to get a league start, maybe for the first couple of days. But overall this is a very cheap and easy to get item. I bought this as 6 link for 2.5 exalts. The other results were 3 exalt. So yeah, under 3 exalts for a 6 link one. Very cheap for an endgame build. So helmet Asenat Chant. Right now this is very cheap, but I'm not sure about league start, so if you try to do this as a league start, I cannot say much. So the reason we are using this, it triggers a socketed spell when you attack with a bow. So these kind of fire builds need some buffs, let's say. So the gems I'm using in this, let's explain so it will make more sense. Flame Wall. So Flame Wall is, they just added this in 3.12. If a projectile passes through the flame wall, it will have an added damage. So this gives a lot of DPS, I mean a lot, millions. So this is one spell we are using. The other one is Wave of Conviction, obviously. It just lowers the resistance of the highest damage taken, and it will be fire because we are also using combustion support. So it gives more fire damage, and that will help with our Wave of Conviction. so it will deal higher fire damage, so it can apply fire resistance penalty. And finally, flammability, that is our curse, that also lowers the fire resist of the enemy. So these three skills, combustion is a support, so do not count that obviously. So these three skills will be cast in an order once you attack with a bow, so that means burning arrow. So you don't need to cast these at all. Asanat chant just helps you with that. So very powerful helmet overall. The only downside for this helmet is you cannot basically find any helm enchants. There are actually 2 helm enchants with burning arrow, and they are very expensive because that person probably played with that, so he knows that it is good for this build. So if you have the money, I didn't want to invest that much. It was like 20 exiles, something like that. So if you can find it, just go for a burning arrow enchant. But I do not have that, okay? But you can even get a couple of million more DPS if you can find something like that. So yeah, again, it is possible to min-max the build even more, so even achieve maybe like 35 million DPS if you also can find that helm enchant or maybe a couple of other upgrades. Quiver. So there is actually another option, but let's just talk with this one. Life, fire damage over time multiplier. First of all, yeah, the base must be a penetrating arrow quiver, otherwise your clear speed will be lower. Yeah, so that makes it a little challenging to find this quiver, but there are actually lots of results. So the only thing is you want to find something on depending on your budget. This was like, I'm not sure, 1, maybe 2 exiles, something like that. But if you try to put this much resist, maybe you cannot find it for cheaper. Maybe I was lucky, I don't know. But there are other pieces that you can keep your resist, so don't forget that, but make sure you put at least 1 resist on your quiver because it makes it very easy to keep your resistances. So fire damage over time multiplier, life, resist, and elemental damage with attacks. Obviously there can be an open prefix or suffix, so you can put that missing stat, whatever it was. So yeah, do not forget to get a penetrating arrow quiver. So there is actually another option, but that is for mostly boss killing because that won't have a penetration on it. And that is signal fire unique quiver. That quiver doesn't have any resist also, I believe. So it is for, yeah, let's say bossing if you can keep your resist because you won't have pierce. And that gives physical damage as extra fire a lot. So that will give at least 1.5 million, something like that. You can check on Battlefield DPS. So that is ultimately better than this kind of rare bow, but only for bossing because you won't have penetration. So body armor, Calm's Heart, very basic. No one plays with this anymore. It is not a meta for the couple of leagues, last couple of leagues. These are like 20-30 chaos. If you have the budget, you can buy a corrupted one with maybe life, maybe damage, or maybe +1 resistances, or 50% reduced damage from crit strikes. So depending on your budget, try to buy a corrupted one, otherwise just buy a regular one, very cheap and very powerful because it gives fire damage and a lot of HP. So amulet, I actually crafted this on my own. You don't need that pierce because quiver all gives it, but if you can craft something like this by luck, you can play with that signal fire because 2 pierce isn't that important, 1 is enough normally for this build. We used to play this build with only a quiver, penetrate, 1 penetration. So this was only, by luck, let's say. I crafted this by luck. You only need fire damage over time multiplier, maybe a resist, life obviously. And this build needs a lot of dexterity, so make sure you get a dexterity based amulet. And I also got lucky and found some attributes, 24, but I actually don't need that. We have a lot of jewels, so you can keep your dexterity from there. But make sure your amulet is at least a dex based amulet, that is very important. If you want to craft this on your own like I did, it only took me maybe like 40 chaos, 30 chaos. It was way cheaper. You just want to use scorched fossils, and maybe you can also use pristine for that life, but using scorched is very efficient. This is not really that crazy at all. You can get a better amulet if you have the budget, but I just want to craft something cheaper. That's why I went with fossil crafting. And do not forget to anoint it with Breath of Flames. It gives a lot of DPS and also ignite duration, which I'm gonna explain soon. There is something about ignite duration. So ring. So actually, I will probably put a picture. Yeah, I have two separate rings. First of all, where is it? Let me find it in game. Yeah, we were playing with this just for dexterity, accuracy, life. If you can get some fire damage, also elemental damage with attacks works. You can get that, but accuracy is very important and also dexterity. So try to get those. But then we found this other ring. Synthesized ring ignites you inflict deal damage faster. Decided to craft this. Let's see if we can craft it. We used a couple of essences and luckily we got dex and fire damage life. So yeah, then we used this one. So if you can craft this, I doubt that you can find anything similar because I'm not sure if people actually craft this or not. But essences are very cheap, and that's why you can craft your own ring. So this obviously gives more DPS because ignite inflict deal faster is a very good stat for this build. So if you think you can craft something with essences, if you bother with it, go for it. Otherwise just buy something with accuracy, X, life. If you also have an open suffix on also your amulet, that works. You can put minimum friends charges, that is also very good for more DPS. Other ring, Malakai's Artifice. So most people don't even know this ring. This is actually very powerful for builds like this. So this gives elemental equilibrium to only to the socketed gems. So normally elemental equilibrium is above. Just check the screen. Enemies you hit with elemental damage temporarily gets plus 25 resist to those elements and minus 50 to other elements. So normally if I get elemental equilibrium on the talent tree, we are dealing fire damage because we are playing burning arrow. So that means that fire resist will get plus resist. So we cannot actually use that. But with this ring, it gives the elemental equilibrium to the only to the socketed gems. So you can just use a cold or a lightning skill in your ring. I chose Storm Brand because you just apply it to the target and it attaches, so you cannot miss it. It is very easy to use, so Storm Brand is a very good option. And it is also a lightning skill, so that works for us. So that will apply cold and fire elemental equilibrium weakness, you know. We want the fire obviously. So yeah, that just makes minus 50 resistances for bosses because I only use Stormbrand on bosses. Obviously you don't want it on while mapping, you don't even need it. So this is just for a very big boss DPS. Elemental Equilibrium gives like 8 million or maybe 7 million DPS alone. So it is a very powerful DPS boost. So this is a ring that you must use. So it also gives a lot of lightning resistances because we are using a blue gem. So mine has 99%, almost 100, let's say. The max roll is definitely 100%. So you can get almost 100% lightning resist from this ring. So this ring is very powerful. We can call it a super secret item. My character's name was Super Secret Burglar. This is something that I use. So this is something that my friend found. You know, whenever we find a secret build, let's say, because no one plays on the leaderboard, something like that, we call it super secret. So this can be the super secret item for this build. Yeah, very powerful. Only one alchemy item and gives like 8 million DPS. Let's see what else. Glows. put some life. Accuracy again is a very powerful stat, we need it, so try to get it. Or maybe you can put it on your amulet if you are lucky. So try to get accuracy on a couple of your items. We are also using precision and also got accuracy on talent tree. So make sure you have enough accuracy, let's say at least 95%, let's say. So if you need it, put it on your gloves. And finally, if you have an open prefix, craft damage during any flask effect for more DPS. So very cheap, very easy gloves actually. So belt, obvious choice for an ignite build. Diadian down, so it gives ignite to inflict with attacks deal damage faster. You want to use catalyst on this. It is normally 35%, with catalyst it is 42%. The catalysts that you can use, if you press alt, you can actually see it. I used attack modifier catalyst. Let's see which one is that. Abrasive catalyst. But actually you can also use the elemental one, because that ignite also has elemental tag. So you can use an abrasive, or which one is that? I will probably write it on the screen, I cannot find it right now. So you can use one of those catalysts, so you will get that 42% here. And this is also like a couple of chaos with good rolls, very cheap belt. So as I said at the start of the video, most of my equipment is very cheap. So this build is actually very cheap to start, but the cluster jewels obviously gives a lot of DPS, which we are gonna talk about soon. So finally, boots. So first of all, you don't need this kind of boot. This only gives a little more DPS. Actually DPS is very good without this boot, because as you can see, mine only has 15% lightning resist. I think I don't even need that. So if you need maybe another resist, if you are having trouble putting it on your other items, so just skip that ignite and get your missing resists. That is very important. And also 30% movement speed is also very important, because Chieftain isn't very fast. With Quicksilver and Cinder Swallows, Silver Flask, we are actually fast enough. But if you do not have Flask, maybe while fighting a boss, character isn't that fast, let's say. So you must have 30% movement speed on your boots. So if that makes it hard to find an ignite boot, just skip it, put your missing resist, life, 30% movement speed, and you are good to go. I also put some dex and int, so try to figure that out also. You don't have to put it on your boots. There are lots of cluster jewels, normal jewels, so it is actually easy to cap your missing stats, let's say. So let's continue with gems. So on my bow I have what's that? I was about to say explosive arrow because I just played explosive arrow before this build. Burning arrow. While burning arrow is better obviously, because it has the 3 stacks, and it deals a lot more DPS. Yeah. So if you have while burning arrow stacks, and if you are fighting a big target, maybe boss, maybe syndicate member, just use those. They deal a lot more DPS. So while burning arrow. Deadly ailments, if you have the money, awakened. Let's see, unbound ailments, again, if you have the money, awakened. Elemental damage with attacks, awakened. So there are lots of awakened gems, so you can work your way through it all. Immolate support, so actually you can play with swift application, but it needs to be awakened to catch immolate's DPS, let's say. So yeah. And finally, burning damage, awakened burning damage again. So my bow has white socket, I used Warichi for that. So I'm actually swapping burning damage with greater multiple projectiles, because this is green, burning damage is red. But if you don't have white socket, you will obviously do that swap with where is it? Yeah, deadly ailments, because it is also green. So I believe Deadly Elements has better DPS, that's why I am switching with burning damage. So if you don't have white socket, just switch it with other jumps, or just play with Swift Affliction and switch with that, because it is already green, so you don't have to play with Immolate. So you just figure that out. So don't forget to swap with GMP, because without GMP the map clearing isn't that good, but with GMP it is way better. There is also another gem, Arrow Nova. Awakened is only like 10 chaos, but it is a little hard to attack big targets with Arrow Nova. Yeah, it's actually good for open layout maps, but the targeting, the single target, you know, is very hard, let's say. So GMP is the best choice in my experience. So helmet, I already explained this, but just go fast maybe. So Ascendant Chant, because when we attack with a bow skill, we trigger these spells in it. So we want something according to that. So again, Flame Wall for that fire bonus once it passes through the wall. Yeah. Wave of Conviction for that minus 25 resist. Because we want to make sure Wave of Conviction deals more fire damage. To apply that fire penetration, we also link Combustion. Combustion also has its own separate minus fire resist, so that is another fire penetration. And finally, Flammability Curse. This is our curse. It also, you know, lowers the resist, the fire resist of the enemy. So the helmet will cast these on its own once you attack with Burning Arrow, so you don't have to do anything at all. Stormbrand in our Malakai's Artifice for that elemental equilibrium. If you have any other favorite skills, it must be a cold or a lightning skill, so that it can apply fire, minus fire resist. Yeah. So Stormbrand is, in my opinion, the best option. If you have any other favorites, go for it, but make sure it is a cold or a lightning skill. Gloves. This is where my buff setup is, and you can also put this on your boots if you want. It doesn't matter. Skitterbot for that shock, so enemies take 17% increased damage. Also chilling Skitterbot, which slows enemies a little, so it helps obviously. But that hasn't got anything with DPS. Malevolence, more damage over time, and skill effect duration, so this is good for dot builds obviously. Precision, so make sure you level your precision until you have enough mana. I currently play with 102 mana, so let's say 100 mana, and that is enough. But actually it can be better if I have 130, something like that, just a little more mana, let's say, because sometimes I, you know, miss my shot, maybe something like that, and it happened once or twice, let's say, I ran out of mana. Yeah, so maybe you can play with a little more mana if you can do that. Maybe if you have better accuracy, so you can lower that precision level, something like that. But precision helps you, you know, with keeping your resist, so that is very important. And finally Enlighten, obviously, to reduce the mana cost. And for boots, we have Enduring Cry, that is on my left mouse button, because it is instant, because we are using where is it? Call to Arms keystone on our talent tree, so it makes it instant. So whenever you are moving, whenever it is not on cooldown, it just uses it automatically, instant. You don't even stop or anything. So once we use Enduring Cry, it can also be another cry, but Enduring is obviously best because it also gives life regeneration. Because we are Chieftain, once we use a War Cry, we start to generate endurance charges. So it has a synergy with Chieftain. So Enduring Cry is the best option. I am actually using Animalus for, but yeah, it is not for this build. Yeah, I was using this on my other build. So Animalus doesn't do anything actually. So you can use another version. Immortal Call. So you want to use this once you are at the big boss, or maybe you want some extra DPS, because again the same passive on Chieftain, it also gives 15% more damage if you have lost an endurance charge in the past 8 seconds. So we have endurance charges all the time because of Enduring Cry, and once you want that big DPS, just press your Immortal Call button and you will get 15% more damage. So this actually gives DPS to Chieftain. Normally it's a defensive guard skill, but for Chieftain it's also a DPS buff, so very important. So Blood Rage for that attack speed, and also Frenzy Charge when you are doing mapping. This is mostly for attack speed, so I can stack my burning arrows faster. And finally Flame Dash, that is my mobility skill. Dash is actually better, but I cannot put it because I don't have any space for second wind. So without second wind, dash is not very good actually. But I actually want to play with dash, so I'm not sure how. Maybe you can skip Blood Rage and put second wind, so you can use dash, because dash is actually way better compared to flame dash on fights like Cirrus and maybe Uber Elder. Actually dash is way better, and I actually died once at Cirrus at last phase because flame dash is very bad. Yeah, because the first cast is very fast on a flame dash, but the second cast is slow. The character just slows down for a second. That's how that flame dash is. So it is not very responsive sometimes. So dash is way better. So consider that. Yeah, so you can use maybe dash. And that's it about the gems. So finally I'm gonna talk about cluster jewels and other jewels that I'm using. So this is a heavily focused cluster build. So we are using 3 separate cluster wheels. So this is how we deal a lot of DPS. So this is how to deal, more damage compared to a trickster, yeah. Because we can use 3 clusters easily. So 2 of my clusters have Burning Bright and Vengeful Commander. So this is actually a trick that I am doing. So we are not actually getting Vengeful Commander. I will put a picture. You actually want to save some points, so you don't take all the passives in the large cluster. So you only want to get Burning Bright and your Jewel Sockets, that's it. If you try to get, without Vengeful Commander or something like that, most of the combinations have Burning Bright on the opposite corner, let's say. So you cannot get it on your normal route, yeah. So with this combination, it is actually closer to the start, so you can get that Burning Bright. So if you know any other combinations, you can also check Path of Building and craft jewels until you find it. So I actually have 2 of these, and finally another jewel. So this is actually, by the way, that cluster I just mentioned is like 30 chaos. It is very cheap. So that is the trick, yeah. This is also for the budget, let's say, yeah. That is the cheapest one that I could find. Another large, so this is for mana leech. So if you do not use this, you have to play with a mana flask, which I don't want, so that's why we are using this. So fuel the fight for that mana leech. Again, you need to do some smart combination, so you don't get that opposite corner. So this is the best version I could find. It has Calamicious, fuel the fight, martial prowess. So Calamicious also gives DPS, but we cannot get it because it is on the opposite corner. I don't want to spend extra points. But we have also martial prowess that also gives ailment damage, attack speed and accuracy. So this is actually a very powerful node. So we are getting that, and also fuel the fight for mana leech. So this is the best version I could find. Obviously the one that I found has wand attacks, so that doesn't work, but it is not that important. So try to get something. The base of the jewel doesn't matter because you only spend 1 point, and that is not very important actually. So try to get this combination and you are good to go. For medium jewels, these are the expensive ones. This is what makes the build maybe medium budget or maybe high budget, depending on the league, the meta, whatever you call it. because overall up to this point I didn't even spend 10 exalt. It is probably cheaper than maybe 7 exalt, something like that. It is actually very cheap if you do not count the medium jewels, but obviously the medium jewels what makes the build can deal, you know, this much damage. So there are lots of combinations. You don't have to buy the exact same ones. I will post pictures on the screen. You can see that my jewels have lots of different combinations. So just try to get something, you know. So blowback and wasting affliction. Those two gives the most DPS because you basically can deal ignite faster. So that is the best DPS option, you know. It gives the most numbers. So try to combine some of your jewels with that. The other good notables are Burning Bright and what else? Cooked Alive, yeah. This is also very good for penetration. And also Smoking Remains. It only gives 35% fire damage, which is actually very good. That smoke cloud on kill isn't that important actually. But this is also another good option for DPS. So just try to get some combination. By the way, one very important thing, so I have to mention it here. Actually, I am not using blowback or wasting affliction on all my jewels, because that reduces the ignite duration a lot if you put it on all of your jewels. Actually, let's see, one, two, what else? Yeah, I actually don't have those on 2 of my jewels, so we are using 6 clusters, medium. 2 of them don't have those 2 passives. Because I didn't want to lower ignite duration that much. So it is actually better for boss fights like maybe Uber Elder, Sirius, because boss teleports a lot, so that ignite duration actually matters on those kind of bosses. So yeah, you can skip some of those, and the other versions are actually way cheaper. So again, try to, you know, make some combinations depending on your budget. Some of these are like 1 exalt, maybe like 50 chaos, but some of the combinations are like 2 exalt, sometimes 3 exalts. So you will probably spend around maybe 10 exalts to these clusters total. But maybe it will be different on a separate league, so yeah. But these are the most expensive yeah, items in this build. So we are also using lots of rare jewels. If you miss health, or maybe you want more health, let's say, use more petals than I do. I only use 2 petals. All the other jewel sockets in those medium jewels are normal jewels. You know, Viridian jewels, Cobalt jewels, those kind of stuff. So let's just talk about petal first. Petal is obviously for maximum health. And you can also put some missing resists there, maybe dexterity. And yeah, it's nothing special. So finally, rare jewels. There are lots of beneficial stats for this build. I obviously want life for more, you know, life. Yeah. And burning damage is the best choice. And then fire damage and fire damage over time multiplier. Because we have enough fire damage over time multiplier from other sources, percentage damage like burning damage and fire damage actually is way better. So try to get those with life. Also, I got some attack speed on some of my jewels because we want to attack a little fast, so we can stack our burning arrow stacks faster, especially on boss fights. Yeah. Split personality, I forgot this. I was like trying to find it on this talent tree while I'm explaining, so I, you know, stopped there for a second. Split personality, so this is something that I use to keep my accuracy actually. So if you still need some accuracy, this is a little trick. This is on like 5 chaos. So I got one with accuracy and life. So this also gives more than 100 life, I believe. Let me check. Yeah, it gives 108 life right now for my character. And also gives, where is it? 2-3%, something like that accuracy. So you can also use this, but make sure you put this on the farthest jewel socket that you can find, because this jewel needs to be very far away from your starting point, which is Marauder. Obviously we are playing a Marauder, so I am using this at the top right corner of my talent tree. Yeah, this is about the jewels, and I believe this is the end. So I believe this is it. So Chieftain overall is very powerful, can achieve high health points easily, and also again compared to a trickster deals way more DPS. So if you want something that deals the most damage, also maps very efficiently. So the clear speed is actually very nice with GMP, and even with GMP you kill everything with one hit, even the elites. So the DPS is very high. So yeah, overall very solid build, and if you like fire skills, you won't regret it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.